This week on Sylvia's Traders Lounge.
One of my recommendations for managing greed was to, if you've got a position, for example, look to get out of 80% of your position at 80% of the target. Okay, that gives you great comfort. You pretty much made the trade, and you then got a 20% risk to play with.
Sylvia's Traders Lounge welcomes you all to yet another webinar where we learn, trade, and profit. We shall be giving you trading insights on technical analysis, fundamental analysis, risk management, and trading psychology. Our guest today is Mark Randall, and our theme is nurturing your mental capital to trade more effectively. Mark Randall was working with individuals and businesses in financial markets in different but complementary ways to help develop optimal mindset for high performance. He is an ex-broker and a creator of HIIT, Hybrid Mind Fitness Program, which delivers potent mindfulness-based solutions for corporate environments. Individually, Mark has an extraordinary level of experience to draw upon and has achieved stunning success in helping countless individuals make huge strides in developing performance and optimizing behaviors. Mark was one of the few people to work on day one of the London International Finance Futures Exchange and spent the next 30 plus years working for NatWest Markets, Greenwich Capital, and RBS. Mark's trader, coaching, and mentoring services are geared around optimizing mindsets, developing mental muscle, and sharpening your trading edge to develop peak performance in highly volatile, complex trading environments. His services are bespoke and aligned to our clients' individual needs, be that individual, team, or organization, and are also available in the groundbreaking AlphaMind Trading Peak Performance Program. His clients include some of the world's largest trading organizations and global corporations. So welcome, Mark. It's an honor to have you on our trading lounge today.
Well, welcome from London. That's very, very kind of you. I think you guys have got a great reputation, so I'm looking forward to sharing some wisdom with you and some surprises.
All right. We're looking forward to also learning from you, given your 30 years of trading experience. Maybe you can briefly tell us about your history into your trading journey and why you focus on building better traders by tapping into their brain power.
Sure. Well, working in obviously the more manual side of trading in the 1980s when I began, I had mental challenges. There was stress. I had panic attacks, stupidly busy markets with stupidly busy things going on and one had to cope with. And I also had spinal arthritis, so I had to manage a medical condition. I had to manage just a lot of baggage that was coming my way from the job I was doing. And of course, being a broker and a trader, and you're kind of a combination of those things when you're in that role, because you have a trader mindset, but you're also managing relationships. So I was managing the pain of the clients as well, which also is an extra degree of difficulty. And I was guided really by my mother actually towards really looking at a different method of managing myself using what today is called mindfulness, but essentially then it was just me doing these things that would build mental muscle and understanding that you had a muscle up here that could be changed from one that felt challenged to one that felt open to opportunity and calmer with better control. And I just discovered this pathway that I guess thought at the time was my secret weapon. And it became a weapon. It was literally a weapon that I could use to support me. It was like a mothership, something I could go to get comfort, to get clarity, to manage myself. And so I guess used these background methods when I needed them. I didn't have to pay for them because they were self-learned. And I'll teach one of them during this session a bit later on and share it with you. But essentially it was just an attitude that by tuning into your senses, you could turn off a lot of the stuff that was potentially difficult for you in your journey. And I guess flourished in my own way with this secret weapon for nearly 40 years. It became something that I found out very early compared to what the market is now finding out is important. So I've got that experience of applying it in real life circumstances to be able to share with you.
All right. And now, given your professional experience, what would you say are the core skills that we need as traders to be able to optimize our mind when we're trading?
I think that we need to look at a commitment to knowing that we need to manage it. So our awareness of ourself becomes really, really important. We can have a scenario where we just don't pay attention to ourselves. And as a result of that, things just get on top of us. So all of this has to start with self-awareness. And then it has to have some sort of commitment of knowing that if you can change some of your behaviors, can support it with certain methodology, then there's a very beneficial outcome at the end of it. And of course, from a trading perspective, if you're putting on risk in the market, and you do not have a mind that is in control, that's calm, and is able to deal with complex things because it is in a difficult state of stress, then you will probably not trade effectively in that state.
All right, and then most people tend to underestimate the power of the mind, mental capital, as our theme suggests today. So how can one harness the strong attributes to become a better trader?
So I think you need to stop thinking about it as this sort of fluffy subject, really. You know, I know the word mental's got some context to it that some people want to stay away from. You know, people feel that there's, they don't want to own up to anything to do with mental because it's got that sort of, got the wrong sort of sound to it. So I think to think of this as sort of mental fitness, of mind fitness as we position it. And when I positioned this within NatWest Markets as a program, I positioned it as mind fitness, because I knew that if I put it out there as, you know, mental training or something like that, then it wouldn't have the same attraction for people. Performance, you know, in markets is kind of almost the same as athletic performance. You know, you're doing things dynamically in fast-moving, complex environments with things changing. You have aspirations of achievement, and of course, all that means that you know, that there's an exercise program around it. So if you can think about this as just exercises for the mind, then it's more acceptable than just thinking about it, oh, it's something to sort my mental state out. So yeah, mental capital is the collective view of it, but actually, yeah, I'm far happier talking about mind fitness and a fitness program for traders, knowing that if you can get on and commit to it, then there's great things that can come out of it. Not just trading, of course, it's how you then interact with life, how you interact with your family, how you create some sort of balance. Because actually, if you don't have great home life, if you don't have balance in life, then you're taking a lot more mental baggage to work with you if you go to trade. So it's just trying to keep yourself in a nice, calm, balanced state. We do better things when we're calm and when we're balanced.
Yeah, and before we get into your presentation for today, and you will give us more insights into your hybrid fitness program, maybe you can, we were just thinking if meditation does help ground you and calm you down, or is therapy more recommended when given your experience as a coach?
You know, I think that if somebody has a clinically diagnosed mental problem, then obviously therapy is a route that needs to be taken. However, for most of us, that's not the case. And so to do something that just seemed to be a little bit of a mind exercise, just to exercise this muscle, then I think that's far more acceptable than to consider it as, you know, some sort of clinical intervention. I think there is a mistake in the corporate world that some people walk in a clinical based sort of training session thinking that everyone's going to sit there and understand it and get it, and they won't. So it's how you wrap it, it's how you sell it, and it's how you destigmatize it to be acceptable and treat it as just an exercise, you know, a fitness exercise for the mind. And so meditation, if you, to me, I didn't really call it meditation. It's just the stuff I did that helped. And it was my stuff, and I didn't call it anything. I just learned this exercise and just did it. And it was the commitment to doing it and fitting it in little and often that made a dramatic difference to me. And of the 35,000 different people or so that have been through my sort of training programs, yeah, they write to me and tell me this is changing my life. It wasn't just changing their trading. It was changing their life at a real fundamental level as to how they were engaging with things.
All right, I think we're now ready to learn from you and your presentation.
Right, so I'll go into share screen mode, and this is where it gets a little bit scary. So we do this, and I'll share my desktop.
Good.
And you can see all this coming through?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Let's double check. I want to just, you'll see the slide. I'm not going to run the slide just yet, because you'll see the second slide has got something I want to play on video. And I have to play it through Chrome because the fact that it doesn't embed properly. But I want you to understand what my view of a market is. A lot of people will say, what's the market? Yeah. And some people are, well, it's the bid and the offer, and it's the size, and it's the depth. And that might be their view of what a market is. But a market's a bit different to that. Okay, so I want to show you what I think a market is. This is what a market is. Okay, a market is this. It's complex. It's got depth. It's got some connectivity. It's got some shapes that you think you can understand. It comes out of shape, but it comes into shape from time to time. And there are moments when nothing's going on, but there are moments when it gets super complicated, really, really complicated. And if you think you can deal with something like this by being underperforming and not on the top of your game, then you're hugely mistaken. Let's just calm that down. So that's my view of a market. My view of a market is really, really interesting compared to most people, because when you professionally look at a market, you see things that people from, the street, as it were, don't see. It is complex. It is more complex than someone that's just day trading with an app. And so you need to understand it. You need to have some golden source of understanding from someone that's been in markets. When someone said, well, how long have you been in markets? I said, well, 37 years. It translates into about 420 non-farm payroll events. So that's kind of experience, right? So that's the depth of experience we're talking about. So if we look at this, as we start to go through this program, you've just seen that. Markets is more than just a bid and offer and the size. There's a lot more going on that you need to be really thinking about and getting aware of. And when you've got risk on, you go from being an observer of these beautiful shapes. If you're looking at that, these looking for opportunity, but you suddenly think, okay, I can see an opportunity, I put risk on. You suddenly become, the bird, as it were, in that murmuration of birds. And so you shift from becoming a curious observer to becoming a player with risk on. You've got real risk on. I'm just going to move these things a little bit. So you've got serious risk going on, and you're now a player. Now you're part of a bigger system. So intuition, your open awareness, and really supreme agility becomes really, really critical. You can't just say, well, I've got a position on that set, let's just step back and see what happens. You've got to be quite tuned in to all of that character. And that character can be on a per product basis, a per system basis, a per economy basis. Lots of things can play with the character of the market. So you've got to treat yourself like an athlete. Optimal performance and something called presence. Being aware of this thing called the present moment is now super critical for whatever you're doing. And you've got to consider presence as your optimal operating temperature. So certainly in England, a nice operating temperature is something around 21 degrees Celsius. Yeah, that's sort of optimal. You feel really comfortable at that sort of temperature. It starts to get up into the 40s and things start getting really uncomfortable, quite difficult. Things get a bit chilly, unless you're wearing the right sort of clothing, it can become, difficult to operate. And actually our own sort of presence exists in these sort of bands. And to show it further, it's about being balanced, not being too hot, not being too cold. And it gives you the awareness to realize your state, because understanding the state we're in is super important, really, really important. Because when you start to walk this into, the decision making behind putting a trade on, it kind of looks a little bit like this. So you're riding along, you've got high awareness, you're in an optimal state. You're not complacent, you're not out of control in your ego. You're watching watching that murmuration of the market to understand what's your strategy going to be. And then you start to realize that there's an opportunity. You then actually start to sort of tune in a little bit more. You actually need to sort of get a bit of ego going on because you need to make a decision. And if you're in a very balanced state, the chances are you might just say, well, I'm not going to bother with that. I don't really focus. So you need to kind of arm yourself to trade, to put the trade on, having done all that due diligence and all that market awareness strategizing to work out what the trade is. You now need to do the trade. But as soon as you've done the trade, you need to go back to being optimal. You need to get that self-presence back to just being in a state of presence and open awareness. Because the risk is if you stay armed and hot, your ego starts to take over. And you just believe your trade is the trade, and you'll stay with the trade, whatever, I'm right. And at that point in time, if you're too hot after a trade has been put on, the market owns you. You don't own the market anymore. Market owns you. Market's going to play with you. So you need to get back to optimal to just be aware of just where the market's taking your position, where it's taking you, and stay optimal. And of course, what you don't want to do either is to sort of relax a little bit. Take your eye off the ball. That's as bad as being too much ego in play. You can get so complacent that you're actually offline, that you've decided to not watch the market at all. And those dangerous points, where traders sort of fail most is that where the ego takes over too much control, or we don't take things seriously enough and we're just offline. At those extremes, we don't make proper money. The extreme is understanding the nature of our relationship with ourself in this sense of thing called presence, and doing something about it to keep ourselves as optimal as possible all of the time, but to tweak it up when we need it to be armed to trade, because we need to make a decision, but then to get back to optimal as soon as possible. But of course, trying to be optimal is difficult. The mind is our worst enemy, really. We're trying to stay on the straight and narrow path of the road, this yellow line going off into the distance, but we bounce around into the edges of our consciousness. And those edges, we can drift into the past where we regret something. Why didn't I do that trade? We relive the experience of a bad trade, and not only we remember it, but we re-feel the experience of how bad it was to go through the pain of that loss, and dwelling on it and taking ourselves away from the present because we've taken ourselves away from reality to somewhere that's in between our ears, worrying about things, reliving something, replaying the failures of our life, the should have dones of this world. And of course, our mind can dip into the future as well. It time travels, sometimes without guidance. What am I going to do about this, performance? What is it going to mean about the future? What does it mean about the family, the mortgage, the concerns, the fears? There's also this state can be where we might have a run of positive trades where we drop the ball and just think we're going to be positive forever. So our focus is, I'm indestructible. This will carry on. I don't need to pay attention because I'm just winning. That too is something that becomes really, really difficult. What we want to be trying to do is staying as close as possible to this thing called the present moment. We have to practically manage and protect our edge by being present. We don't want to go into those dark edges there. We want to stay into the edge of that yellow line, because in that edge of that yellow line is where we're aware, we're in touch with ourselves. where we're in touch with our position, the market, the risks, the trends. Our interaction with colleagues and family is in the present. When we're stuck in those edges, we're only in touch with ourselves and with the difficult nature of ourselves as well. And it's important to understand that this thing called the present moment or presence is actually, it's the only time that we are alive and in control of anything at all is when we're in the present. If you're doing something complex and yet your mind is in those edges, you'll do it badly. You'll make mistakes. You'll make errors. You won't make proper decisions. You'll make rash decisions. You might overtrade. You might undertrade. You certainly won't be trading optimally in this state. So presence is like super important. And the difficulty is that if we are tuned into this chatter, this mental chatter of us just talking to ourselves about the criticalities of all of these things, then yeah, we don't have any inspiration there. We become frustrated with ourselves almost. We get a confusion, we become anxious, we can get trader block where we can look at a screen and just stare at the screen and, you know, see nothing but end up trading anyway. We become fearful and stressed and quite desperate. Self-critical in a way where we just don't trust ourselves, and we can get really upset about that, and we lack process, so we can make mistakes. We don't do things that we should do as part of normal trading protocol, and our awareness gets very, very low. So our market awareness becomes a tragedy, really, where we're just not paying attention to that murmuration that we need to be aware of, because it is a difficult place. And we become ignorant of others, and that includes family. We ignore family. Family things could become quite difficult, and we take all this baggage to bed with us, and we just can't sleep because we're thinking about all this baggage. And it becomes mentally exhausting and quite negative. So we have a negative sort of disposition. And if something complex flies into this arena, or maybe it's something that could be an opportunity, but it's presented to this particular mindset, we do not have the state of mind to deal with it. We do not have the state of mind to even pay attention to it. We may not even notice it. And so that's dangerous. For us wanting to be optimal in life and in this space called trading, with its dangers and its difficulties, then, you know, if we're not paying attention, this is the mindset we end up with. So the market mind is offline. Your stress level will increase in this state. Attention will lapse and performance will suffer. And of course, stress, if left uncontrolled and unmanaged, starts to turn into depression and recurrent depression, and may end up in being something that clinically needs to be managed. So this thing could be quite dangerous for you. It's non-optimal. It's a very closed state of mind. You're not open to anything creative. You're not open to any opportunity. There's no room to think, and it's a negative mindset. And it becomes mental inflammation. Negative information overload just creates this inflammation that just gets on top of us. And I found through my own discovery that there is this thing that I could, you know, use a basic level of meditation to just turn down this noise by tuning into my senses, you know, what we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we feel, what we smell, rather than tuning into my thoughts. And I could turn down the clutter into the mindset on the right there, which says after. That's not off, that's on. That's ready for anything you want to throw at me, because I'm going to cope with it. Mindset on the left, it's challenged. Throw something at me, I get more stressed. I become more frustrated. So there's an optimal link with why you should be looking at a mindset on the right as the optimal mindset to get into. Now, the use of mindfulness techniques to create mental clarity, to optimize your edge, you know, is discussed in the trading world. Sometimes it's discussed in a clinical way, as I think Sylvia suggested, which is inappropriate because it turns more people off of the idea. They say, why should I do that? I've got a clinical reason to do this. So actually, what it does though, knowing that it creates a mindset that is on and market ready and ready for anything the market wants to throw at it, and anything the market wants to do with your position to the point that you need to rapidly manage it, you want that mindset on the right. I'm sure you would want to agree with that. And if you can do that and commit to that, then some ridiculous things start to happen. As I say, 35,000, 40,000 people have been through this type of training, and I've seen the results, and it changes lives. It changes perspective. It changes the way people trade. Because the mindset that comes from this is as follows. You're more tuned in to your senses, so you actually become much more market aware. You're very calm. You're very measured, and people will notice that. You become creative. You become disciplined. You understand process. You stick to process. You become realistic. You're able to move on from a difficulty. The mindset that's challenged might just stay with that difficulty. Live with it, sleep with it, wake up with it, do it again, add to it, make it worse, do the same over again, become challenged, not make money. Those things happen, when you're not able to move on. Able to move on is that movement from being on trade to being back to optimal, being on a loss, being back to optimal, being on a market tragedy, a calamity, and getting back to optimal and just moving forward all of the time. It's about agility and rapid decision-making, balanced, resilient, self-managed, and having the comfort to know that you've got a management set of tools that you can relate to. And being risk-aware too, just aware of how much risk you want to put on the table, how much you don't want to put on, how much you want to preserve. When the time is actually time to just step away and take a break. And actually being observant of others and having a very high level of energy for whatever you do. Also, you tend to get this positive mindset too, where you start to have an attitude that's comfortable about yourself. In such an attitude, stress is decreasing in this mindset. Performance is more likely to be enhanced in this mindset. Your awareness to all things, including yourself and others around you and the market and life, is on. And the shift is a bit like you suddenly realize you've been looking at the world in black and white. And you suddenly now tuned into high definition Technicolor and thinking, okay, I didn't realize there was so much going on because I'm now looking at things really differently. So people have seen that shift. And it's an optimal state of mind. There's room to think. Something complex turns up in this mindset, you can deal with it. You don't get stressed by it. And you can take on things that perhaps you wouldn't approach because you thought in a stress mindset they were too complex. In this mindset, you'll give it a go. You will give it a go and you'll understand it and you'll learn and you'll acquire new skills to deal with things because you've just got a different type of thing driving you. And this positive energy and agile mindset practically manages yourself. And it's what builds this mental capital, which is about nurtures your mental capital. It gives you confidence to face change as well and to walk towards challenges with really this fluid intelligence, being able to just shift your state to match the environment and match the challenges that face us. And if you can be positive, you tend to be happy. And if you're happy, you tend to be healthy. So with all the challenges going on the health side at the moment, actually, this is something that supports your immunity. You know, if you've got less stress, you happen to have more immunity than if you have got stress. If you've got stress, then it makes you more prone to disease, more prone to infection, more prone to more difficult challenges if you have an infection. So it's very thematic that we're talking about, how you shift your mindset. So I want to share something with you. I want to give you a bit of meditation, and I hope that you're up for that. This is a trader-based thing, and there's me throwing a bit of my stuff. I never used to call it anything other than just this little simple exercise I did, and I knew that actually made a dramatic change. So I'd like you to all just find yourself in a nice, comfortable place wherever you are. Don't slouch back in your chair. Just be nice and comfortable. Feel you're being maybe held up by a string that's just coming out the top of your head and just pulling you upright. Because this is not about falling asleep. This is about falling awake. Suddenly becoming aware that there's more to you than you know. So get yourself comfortable. If you've had any medical conditions you think, actually, this is not for me, then don't join in. If you've got asthma, this is not about breathing any differently to normal. So I don't want you to feel challenged by it. So I invite you to just close your eyes. Just close your eyes. And for the moment, just tune in on you. Just pay attention to perhaps what's been going on in thoughts, any aches, any pains that have been going on, any stresses or strains that have been going on. What's your internal weather today? How have you come about today? What does it feel like today, you being you? I want you to switch your attention from thinking to sensing and start pay attention to your breath. And start to pay attention to the coolness of the air as you breathe in and the warmth of the air as you breathe out. And as you breathe out, just sense you're becoming heavier, more connected to the chair, the floor, and just follow that cycle, coolness in, warmth out, and just that heaviness. And just notice that the body's not still as you breathe. Just notice the rise and the fall of the chest, maybe. You may pick up your pulse at some point of the body. You may sense a tingling in your fingers and your toes as your circulation just starts to improve. And if you drift into a thought, bring your attention back to your breath. And if you drift into a thought again, bring your attention back to your breath. And pay attention to the coolness of the air as you breathe in and the warmth of the air as you breathe out, and just that heaviness, that connection to the chair, the floor. And just notice that your arms are heavier, your upper back, shoulders slightly lower, as you're starting to unwind some of that stress. If you drift into a thought, bring your attention back to your breath. Just pay attention to the coolness of the air as you breathe in and the warmth of the air as you breathe out, and just that heaviness and connection with the chair, the floor, here, now. And when you feel comfortable, just open your eyes. Well, thank you for just going through that. I hope some of you were able to get some valuable time from that. It's remarkable how a very short 1 minute, 30 seconds can just calm you, can take the noise away from thoughts that are going on to you just paying attention to you. Do that several times a day, and it's you just showing yourself a little bit of respect. You know, it starts to build this mental muscle. It starts to build a different mindset that shifts gear into being aware of things. It shifts into a different state of awareness, and it starts to become, if you can commit to this, it really starts to change your attitude about you, but also it'll change your attitude towards the market. It'll make you not only calmer, but it'll be like a Wizard of Oz moment of thinking, I used to think the market was black and white, and now I'm just seeing it as this, whoa, there's so much going on. And there's things that perhaps in that so much going on that you think, actually, there's different opportunity for me here. There are things in this thing called the murmuring of the market that I'd not been paying attention to. Maybe my model's slightly wrong. Maybe I need to be looking at the gamification side of market rather than the traditional side of market. My attitude toward the market is changing because actually my attitude towards myself is changing because I'm giving it a bit of time. And this positive way of managing yourself is giving yourself time to actually be aware and conscious of the complexities of things as difficult as financial markets. And it's the power of pause and knowing that pause creates opportunity, and being bothered to do this stuff, as I called it. You don't need to tell anyone you do it. Well, you know, you can record this from the video that's shared. I'll share the script with Sylvia as well, and just learn to do it. Just do it. Don't need to tell anyone. Just do it. But this is not just the only way. I want to share some other things with you. Of course, our system. If you can manage your trader mind during the day, these little pauses, these little breaks, it will help you take less mental baggage to bed with you. And that will aid a better night's sleep. You know, if you take a stress response to bed with you, you've got adrenaline and cortisone flying on in your system. And if you've had coffee throughout the day, it's just not a good recipe to get to sleep. And you wake up the next morning tired, you go for coffee straight away. Coffee makes you more anxious if you're anxious, by the way. So just be very careful how you drink and operate with coffee, because it can make things worse. But, you know, keep yourself hydrated. If you look at us as a system, we need rest, we need hydration, and we need oxygen to function before anything else. So if you can remind yourself of the need of those things, of getting out, getting fresh air, getting hydrated, having the right rest, managing yourself with little mental pauses, mind-fit pauses, as I've shown you, then, you know, you're managing a better trader opportunity in you by doing that. So our trader mind today is often determined by how well we managed ourselves yesterday. It's all about connecting as well. That's a full English there of, since I'm in England, that's sort of breakfast at some people. Occasionally, I treat myself and have that. But I want to show you the fact that actually, you know, there's more to this mindfulness stuff than just meditation. It's about connecting through your senses wherever you go. So get out into nature. Take a break at lunch. Take a break at the beginning of the day before you start your trading day. Take a wander into nature at the end of the day after your trading day to connect yourself back to nature. And when you're in nature, experience nature. What you see, what you hear, what you smell, what's changed from yesterday, what you're paying attention to. And just breathe in air, but also get access to full bandwidth light, because that reminds our internal system where we are in the time of the year that we sit within. If we spend ourselves too much indoors, we lose track. Our body loses track of where it is from a seasonal point of view. And when you're in the shower, be in the shower, not thinking about how you're going to pre-trade your trading day, right? Don't do that. Just be in the shower and eat well. You know, I hear people that get up and they think, oh, I won't have much for breakfast, but we need energy to drive us. So make sure you eat well and keep yourself hydrated. And regularly take the opportunity to be present by tuning into your senses to empower you to face the complexity and the unpredictability of markets, particularly the environments that we can see in markets. They're difficult, they're complex, they're bigger than you could ever imagine. And to face those with confidence is super, super important. And something also that one of the best traders I ever knew did was actually showing up with the right mindset to trade. And it's about having a fixed market close. When there was a point in the day, he said, after this point in time, I'm not in the market anymore. I'm at home. I'm doing stuff with family. I'm doing a hobby. I'm going for a walk with the dog or whatever. It's also about decluttering. Often we have this, you know, if we have books and stickets all around our trade station and notes from today, and some of those notes may be disasters. Some of those stickets may be something that's on our mind. If we have these things around us, if we come into our trading station the next day, we read anything that we see. So even if you're looking at this slide, you've probably read slowing up 10 times, showing up 10 times. You might have read trader mindfulness several times, because whatever we see, we read. So if you declutter your desk every night and turn up at your desk, having rested well and awoken well, start each day with a blank sheet of paper. And what this trader I knew did is that every day he sharpened his pencil every morning to define that he was now in trading mode with a blank sheet of paper, and that the day that was about to come had never happened before. And so his ideas of yesterday were going to be challenged today. And he needed to be aware and connected to the market as a whole, managing himself in the ways that I've suggested, because he needed to deal with something that has never happened before. That murmuration was yet to show up. So you needed a clear mind, but a clear workstation and a clear attitude to how you were then going to trade the market. So sort of in summary in this very short half hour of this wander through. You know, the man on the left is stuck with all this anxiety, the stresses and strains of modern day life, walking in this natural environment that he's paying no attention to because his mind's elsewhere. He's physically there, yeah, but he's mentally gets somewhere else, and he's mentally probably getting stressed by thinking about the mortgage and the wife, or all the challenges of trading if he's a trader. And there's the dog. I'm out with my dad. I'm looking for squirrels. I'm smelling the air. You know, I'm feeling the ground. It's a great day. What wonderful weather. What wonderful environment. You know, we want to think to get more into that natural state more often. And we can do that by being present. If we're not present, we're with the guy on the left. And that's not a great place to be trading from. You just want to be having clear air, clear mind, tuned into your senses, and just be ready for anything, including squirrels in this dog's particular case. And with that attitude, with this commitment to a toolkit, you'll be able to reset yourself, refresh yourself, recalibrate yourself after difficulties that will come in markets. They will come. And it enables you to get calmness, clarity, and control. Because with calmness, clarity, and control as your base, you'll be in a better condition to trade, no matter what the market is. And you'll be able to do that on demand. So for the moment, that's the end of my little half hour. I think we're going to be sharing these slides. And you can find out various things about AlphaMind on alpha-mind.net. We have a fabulous podcast called TheAlphaMind Podcast. And if you want to have a golden source of building supreme expertise, then Society of Technical Analysts has some superior courses, and you can use a code AlphaR2020 to get discount. And they are globally recognized by international bodies. So it's something that we're very, very happy to talk about. So, hang on. So thank you, guys. And I think we're going to open it up to a few questions now and talk about a few other things. So I guess I need to stop the share and go back to me. Hi, so how was that, guys? Did you like that? I had a bit of laughter when we talked about the shower. So, but interesting, though. I hope you found that interesting.
Very, very interesting, Mark. I really quite found it interesting. And one of the things that I've personally heard from elite traders is that it's not even the strategies that they count, but they don't really count, but the mindset that you use to apply some of those strategies and some of those approaches. So there's one of the members of our audience basically has a question, and thank you for that presentation. It was quite something to really digest for many, especially in the retail space. So Anne is asking, what kind of mental challenges were there in the 1980s, given that the market environment at that time, what was the market environment at that time when it comes to trading? And what kind of mental challenges were guys like you experiencing during that time?
Well, it was a lot more manual. So, we had to put everything into the trading floors of Chicago and London by voice, by phone. If you had 20 clients, you had 20 different phone calls going on at the same time. You had to manage 20 different orders manually into markets. In markets were physical, they were not electronic. They were markets that existed in a physical sense of open outcry. If you watch the film Trading Places, you understand that that they were difficult areas. But also information was less transparent. You had no sense of market depth as you do now. You didn't have the same purview of understanding just how broad the market was, because often people were siloed in their little products. They were interest rate specialists, they were equity specialists, they were commodity specialists. But of course now, retail man on the street can click on an app and suddenly get access to everything from Bitcoin to foreign exchange and everything in the middle, and being able to trade in some sense of the word, those markets. So the market has become more regulated though. There was less regulation in the 80s. It's more regulation now. There's more visual on behavior, about appropriate behavior. There's more understanding now of the need to manage yourself. And so there are lots of people, I from the early days of the life trading floor, there was at least 10 people that I know that died early. You know, I'm talking, 50 or less, 50 years of age or less, because they weren't managing themselves as the way they should. And I think we're understanding now that the culture now is more around the need for self-management, the need for mental management, that the idea of mental management, in the 1980s wasn't even spoken about. Mental health has only really come on the agenda in the last 10 years, last 5 years? Was it really on the agenda in the 80s? No, it was the case of you went out there and you did it. And if you failed, you failed. And if you hurt yourself and died, well, you hurt yourself and died. Now there's a bit more responsibility about the need to manage ourselves and understand that we need to really, keep in touch with our state and ourself as the backbone for managing our trading.
Thank you for that, Mark. Wellington Odhiambo wants to know, saying, hey, Mark, he has been on a losing streak for almost 3 days now, and he's stressed up. He's wondering whether he should keep on trading or take some time off.
Take a break. I mean, one of the biggest challenges for any of us is being honest with ourselves. When we're not honest with ourselves, we just think, if you've got this in your hand and you're next to the screen, it's like it's got temptation written over it, to click and click. It's so easy. In the early 80s, it was less easy. But now it's so easy and so dangerous as a result. We need to have this attitude where, if as Wellington alludes to, and of course, I'm sure him and others have had times where you think something's going on. Step away, right? Go for a walk. Go and connect yourself with fresh air. Tune into a hobby that you like doing. Go and have some fun. Get some humor in your life, because if you've been on a winning streak, you've certainly got no humor. Rock out to your own soundtrack. Go and do some dancing somewhere. Do something that just takes you away from trading. Connect with yourself, manage with yourself in a way that we've talked about today, yeah? Don't worry, don't beat yourself up, yeah? Because no doubt Wellington's got huge skills to be able to, take on the market and make money. Just go away and reset and refresh and recalibrate yourself, and then approach the market with a fresher mindset. That would be my advice. I'm not promising you're going to make money, but you got more chance of making money if you can reset and refresh and recalibrate yourself.
And his biggest issue is that he doesn't know how to stop trading when he's winning, and it always ends the same way, losing everything.
Yeah, that's another. Learning to step away and knowing when enough is enough is super important. Again, being honest with yourself. Getting to a target and thinking, yeah, that's my target made, that it doesn't then lead into over trading is super important. And if you're more aware of yourself and you're less dragged by your ego and more optimal in your state of being, then you've got more chance from James's point of view of you losing that. So learn to get yourself more present more often. And don't stay with being the ego of winning, because it will get you into trouble, because the market then owns you. And guess what? The market will get its money back. So getting back to optimal is like super important. And of course, that links in with, I know you mentioned about greed as well, and it fits into the same thing. And also I'd say that don't make money the objective. Have a bigger purpose than money. If you can be driven by a bigger purpose. One of the most successful hedge fund guys I know in New York City, he built more business by being seen to be the guy that helped people that had difficulty in a church. Every Thursday night, he would help with giving them food. He'd stay overnight and help with their bedding. And that was something he did. And he was seen by people from like Citibank and JP Morgan, who were also helping with that. as being somebody with the proper purpose. Now, he won more business because people saw him having a purpose than him having an ambition just to make a load of money. So we need to keep that balance about ourselves. Yeah, if money is the controlling aspect, then it's the wrong thing. Be driven by something bigger than money.
That's quite wonderful. And to add on to that, personally developing as a trader, one of the things that I noticed or that clicked for me was when my relationships with people, friends, spouse, family, when they became better, when I paid more attention to them, the better things became. Things became better when I was also trading. It's quite a revelation, guys. It's quite fascinating. You would think spending a lot of time, as you had put in your presentation, staring at the charts and looking at price and all that, is the key to unlocking the market. But you will be amazed at how good relationships, meaningful relationships, tend to improve someone a lot.
Indeed. I think what you need to do is essentially understand that this is unlocking yourself. So the socialization is unlocking yourself. The ability to share is unlocking yourself. The ability to build, to have a community to talk about things like this is kind of unlocking yourself and realizing that you're not alone. And that may be some of the difficulties that people face. And actually talking about it and sharing it and within community and being honest with yourself that actually it's time to step away a bit because I've made enough or I've had enough. Both of those things can drive you into thinking, okay, I need to take a break. And don't look for 100%. Too many people look for 100%. One of my recommendations for managing greed was to, if you've got a position, for example, look to get out of 80% of your position at 80% of the target. Okay, that gives you great comfort. You pretty much made the trade, and you then got a 20% risk to play with, but you don't get killed if the market suddenly goes against you because you've taken 80% out at 80%. And that's a really, really useful tool because it stops greed. It makes people realize that actually going for 100% is often just not achievable. And the amount of time taken often to get to 100% it's almost like you get to 80% very, very quickly, and then it drags on, but you still want to get to 100%. In that time that you've got such focus on wanting 100%, you're better off using that time to be looking for other opportunities. So releasing time is really also really, really important. Not only time for trade, but also understanding that releasing time for yourself also makes you a better trader because of the whole concept of balance. If you're a more balanced person, I am sure that you will trade better by being balanced. Because if you're unbalanced and you've got other challenges going on, you'll be trying to trade with all this theater of these challenges playing around between your ears. And so you're trying to trade, but you've got this drama, there's like a TV show going on of, if you're not careful. So it's understanding that world, which is just what's in between your ears, can get in the way of an awful lot of things. So to understand that the biggest distraction for your trading could just be yourself, and that needs to be paid attention to.
Okay, quite revealing. Thank you, Mark. There's some things that you mentioned, and this question is basically attributed to those things. When you talked about the past and the future, for example, the past, you have regret, reliving, refilling, dwelling, failures, and should haves, what you should have, what the market should give you, what's supposed to give you. And then the future, doubt about the future, concerns, fear, making presumptions and thinking that, you are indestructible. So Stella wants to know, all these things contributes to one's beliefs. Sometimes are we really trading our beliefs, thinking that we're trading the market? Are we trading our beliefs, actually?
Well, I think you're trading, if you're looking at those particular things, you're being driven by the wrong elements. You're certainly not driving it from this power of being in the present moment, where you're paying attention as much as possible to what's going on now. Now, of course, some of our beliefs are good beliefs. Yeah. So some of our aspirations are good aspirations. But if we dwell on them too much, if we dream too much, we can have a dream that can take over. We can have a dream that I need to desperately leave this village or this town and go to America. And sometimes the dream can be too big, and it can make you want to make as much money as possible to fulfill that dream. And so it can get you back to over trading and get you back to wanting greed again. So I think, those things are going to be happening. You can never turn those things off. But if you can understand that you drift into that state and know that you're in that state and you need to get back to the present by using the breath or just by connecting to the outside, that's what you should be doing. So it's the awareness that sometimes we drift into a state that is not optimal for trading is really, really important. And knowing that you're in that state is the awareness. Because if you don't know that you're in that state of doubting yourself or beating yourself up and you're trading, then it's highly likely that your trading will suffer as a consequence.
And thank you, Mark. And Jacob wants to know whether personality contributes to maybe having an edge when it comes to trading. Different people have come into trading with they have different kind of personalities. And will this help give the trader an edge when it comes to even, enabling them to have that?
Best traders Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. The best traders were always the people that were calm, that the worst traders were the people that were shouting about their trades, that were boasting about their trades, that were boasting about how much profit they made, blah, blah, blah. They were the worst traders. The best traders you wouldn't really hear about. They were just, really calm, really cool, really, really balanced. But also, there is, certainly in the AlphaMind project, there is a risk type compass where we do a personality analysis and understand what type of personality you are and whether you're trading the right product, the right trading style around your trading strategy. So that can be analyzed, for people to understand actually they're a trader, but their trading style reflects to perhaps a different market to the one that they're trading, and a different trading style to the one that they're trading, and a different risk type profile to the one that they're trading. So those things can be very, very useful. At a fundamental level, I'd still go back to that point, though, that the people that shouted about their trading were useless. The people that didn't were actually really, really good.
Thank you, Mark. That was the last question. This was a very enlightening, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark, for your presentation. It's actually the first presentation we've had a live sort of meditation session.
How was that? What did people think of that?
It was really special. That's what I can say from my end.
Yeah.
But it's personally, it's part of my routine before I start my day, and it really calms someone down. And also being in the moment, especially if you're a day trader, that is. So I'll really encourage guys to take that up, even if it's for 1 minute. It's calming. It gives someone a sense of clarity, and most importantly, being present, even on anticipating what the markets will do, how price will move, knowing that you ought to wait, first of all, to see whether what you are anticipating or expecting is going to play out, instead of just jumping in and getting on to a particular trade. So it's really a good practice. It's great. And Boaz says this has been good, and that we should have more of these conversations.
Well, I'm always delighted to come.
Yes.
To come back. I think Mwando's got a raised hand in the box down below. Is that?
Let me see. Someone just raised his hand. Let me check out. I don't know that he has a question.
Maybe he's just waving.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah,
Listen.
Yeah, and it felt nice to have a guided meditation session. So thank you once again. We'd love to have you again in the future if your time allows. And
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, do look at those resources. The AlphaMind stuff is golden source. You know, we're doing great things on the AlphaMind podcasts. If you have people that want to have the professional training around technical analysis, I can really recommend the Society of Technical Analysts work, because they're the global leader in the space, and you can get a discount using the code that I'm sure you can share with the presentation. But yeah, it's about where you get your information from, who you listen to, who you pay attention to is super important. There are a lot of people out there with stuff that is from a standpoint of them having no market experience. Okay, so like I said, I've got 430 non-farm payroll experiences as my market experience. So yeah, and we're doing good. So yeah, we're in a special place, and we're building a training program as well. So we'd love to share that with you as well, to see whether that suits your audience. It'll be paid for, but you know, if it's worthwhile sharing, it's worth paying for in my view. So that's something quite different to what we've done already. But I think you guys have done a great job in getting this community together. So well done.
Thank you. And to add on to that, guys, you guys wouldn't believe the kind of things that I learned about technical analysis when I was personally taking my CMT, and I'm still taking it. And it was quite different from what is basically out there a lot, and the kind of training you get, it's really professional from guys who really understand the art of TA. So guys, really go and check it out. Check out the society. I'm pretty sure you'll get, platinum kind of knowledge about TA.
Well, exactly. And also, if people are looking to get into an institution, like to move from retail to becoming professional, then that qualification is recognized at a professional level as well, and can make a huge difference.
All right. If you wish to get in touch with Mark Randall, you can go to alphamind.net. And Mark, do you have an active social media handle that people can refer to?
Yeah, at AlphaMind102.
Yeah, so we'll be sure to link down the website as well as his contact details if you guys need to reach out to him for his service. So thank you, Mark. Thank you for your time, and we'll be in touch. We'll send you a link to the webinar once it's edited.
It's great. Listen, glad it's gone so well. All the very best, yeah?
All right.
All right. Thank you, Mark.
Bye.
Take care. Cheers, guys.
Thanks guys for tuning in and sticking with us to the end. We hope you have learned something new. I would like to appreciate Scope Markets for sponsoring this webinar. Remember, you can open a live trading account with Scope Markets and apply the lessons shared by the guest in this webinar to your trading. Many thanks to our guests for speaking to us. We'll be open to have you in the future. Till next time, goodbye.